Welcome to the Elevated Chat Room. It's your guy, Dwayne Malone. Today, I have a very special co-host with me, Mr. Antonio Great.
What's
The
good?
Antonio Great, the inspirational speaker, the author, the list goes on. And let me go ahead and address the elephant in the room. We're missing our guy tonight, the energy of the room, Mr. Lonzo Jones. Yeah, his son had a game tonight, and he's been a good dad, and that's what we love and support about it. So big shout out to Jones. Today we're gonna talk with these wonderful people right here. Let me just introduce them real quick. So to my right we have Mr. Braden. To beside him we have Miss Chantrice Bird, Miss Valina, Miss Corey, and Miss Emma. And we're super Mr. Corey.
It's all right. I'll let you slide right now. It's on camera.
That was an icebreaker.
It worked.
Hey,
It worked.
he wasn't even gonna say nothing. Okay.
So we're gonna have to talk about this later, man.
Okay. Okay. And so listen, I'm gonna pitch it to Mr. Antonio Great. Antonio, quickly, just tell them something briefly about yourself, for those that may not know who.
Oh
Antonio
man, listen,
Great
I'm
is.
Antonio Great. I'm just a special guest tonight. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for allowing me to fill in for Lonzo. Definitely can't take his place. But like I said, I'm just happy to be here, man. I'm ready to get started, really.
Let's go. All right. So today's topic we're talking about from red flags to real love, rewriting your relationship story. We are just talking about experiences. We're not here trying to be therapists and so on, even though one, has that capability, but still. Anyway, let's go right into it. So, question number 1 goes to the comedian. The comedian, Mr. Corey Bonds. All right, here we go. What qualities do you typically look for in a partner?
Okay. So now I typically look for one, I am a father more than anything. So I look for a woman that loves kids and is willing to be okay with me having a child. So some people not into that. So I let it know for up first. Like I got kids, I got a child, and I'm there. So I'm gonna be the best father that I can be.
So is that all? Just someone.
Hey, for me,
just someone that.
yeah, it is. Because for me, it used to be. I used to want a bad woman, but now they be bad for me.
What does that mean?
Bad women have your high blood pressure. You be wondering where she at. Then she get mad at you and stuff like that. See, I need a woman that's gonna be chill and understand. Sometimes it's gonna be hard.
Chill.
Yeah, somebody good. Somebody that's chill, that's gonna understand me, that's gonna be there for me. Because life is hard.
Life is hard.
And one thing you need is somebody that's gonna ride for you when them lights go off.
When the lights go off.
Yeah.
What you think?
Let's go light a candle.
He's in the lab. Listen, so that's your final answer.
Yeah, that's my. Was that okay? Yes, that's my final answer. Was that enough?
Okay. So somebody else who want to tackle that question? Number 1. Anybody else that would like to hit that? Anyone else? Let's go. What you got?
Number 1 is gonna be she's got to be a woman of God. So she's got to follow Jesus. She's got to be producing the fruits of the Holy Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. I don't know if I'm forgetting one. All the ones. Because a lot of people can fake it. They can go to church. They can look the part. But what does their life look like? Do they actually treat people nicely? Are they kind? Are they generous? So that's number 1, woman of God. And then number 2 is she's got to have a ministry mindset. So I work at a church. I'm a youth director, so I run a youth ministry, and that takes up a lot of my time. I've given my life to Jesus, but also given my life to building the church. And so I would love for my future wife to want to build that with me. And not that she has to have the same call, but just that she would complement my call. And so those would be the top 2 things that I'm looking for.
I like that.
That was good.
Great. Yeah. You taking notes, Corey? Yeah, I'm taking notes.
Anyone else got something?
So someone who's supportive, kind, has really good communication as far as being willing to talk things through. I do want someone who at least believes in God. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be like the most spiritual person, but you need to have a clear understanding and you need to know that he's our source. I need someone who is driven, hardworking, selfless, fun, likes to have a good time, laid back. I'm more of a laid back type of person. So I just prefer someone who I don't have to really try a whole lot with. Like it just happens naturally. And let's see what else. Sensitive, but sensitive to me, not necessarily sensitive themselves. And confident. Confident, but humble. Wow. That's about it. I have more, I'm sure, but those are the things that come off the top.
Okay. I see you. What you got?
Well, no, I was kind of bouncing off what he was saying. I respect the fact that that's your number one thing, because a lot of people aren't, I guess, bold enough to say that. Because when I was younger, that was not my list of priorities. It's like, like you said, if you believe in God, cool, but we don't have to talk about really like what you want to do with that. Mm-hmm. And now, like, I think those shared values, I feel like I have to have, because I look at my children to see how, your lifestyle is going to affect them. But my situation, I think, is a little different now, because the last time we talked and we met, I was single. And like now, like I got engaged on Labor Day. I know, it's crazy. I didn't tell anybody. It's super quiet. But
for real.
But it was kept quiet. Yes. But things, I did keep things quiet because I've had like relationships out in the public before. And it's like, I feel like people thrive on hurting other people and to like make things just messy for no reason. And so I kept everything super quiet, and it just kind of like, it's been great. But high school sweetheart, we dated a little bit in college, and then 20, 30 years later, we reconnected, and it was just like, we picked up right where we left off.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Wow. Wow. Miss Emma, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. Is there any particular type of characteristics that you look for?
Well, I've got two main ones because I feel like everything falls under these two. I'm right along with Braden. I want a man of God, not a Christian boy, but a man of God, submitted to the Lord, because that makes it easier for me to be submitted to him. Yeah. And I feel like if you're submitted to God and you're a man of God, then the rest will follow. Love, joy, like the fruits of the Spirit, like he was talking about. Another big one, though, that I have kind of learned as I've kind of gotten older is I want somebody who's going to be a learner. And what I mean by that is like a lot of people, oh, that's just how I am. Oh, I'm just that way. I'm not going to change. It's just how it is. So I want somebody who's willing to do the hard work, to be able to learn, to grow, to change, because I'm going to do that. Like that's something that I love to do, is to learn and grow. And so I need somebody who's going to be able to complement that. And if I need to come to them with something, hey, like this is something that, I'm growing in and you need to match that, then they can do so. I want somebody who's going to be able to lead me spiritually and lead my family spiritually, because I believe that there's an order in marriage and in relationships. And so I want somebody who's going to be able to do that. And a Christian boy is more, I guess, immature in their faith is a great way to put it. Whereas a man of God is strong and he's able to take charge. He's able to lead. He's able to allow me to be feminine. So yeah, that's kind of what I was meaning.
That's good. Thank you for that. That was good. Oh man, that was good. I love it. We're doing good. So I have another question for you, Corey. I think this is perfect for you, bro. The question is, have you noticed any negative patterns in the type of people you have dated? Yeah. Negative habits is just arguments. Like that's all I used to deal with is arguments. And once I changed, like, type of woman I was looking for, like, we don't have arguments. Actually, different women teach me how to deal with some of my stuff. I know I had me growing up, I walk away from stuff and I'd be mad about it later. But just having somebody to talk to you through that problem and like, hey, we don't have to yell, we don't have to scream. You can react in a different way.
I think we all have good and bad things to say about everybody we've dated. And I know they have a list of good and bad things to me because I know I'm a difficult person. It's fine. But I do feel like there's like a checklist. And it's like I had to make sure they checked all the boxes before I went into that. And they weren't all good boxes, and I know that. And so, we could all like share our red flag. Like I carry one in my back pocket sometimes, because we all have them. But Yeah, just I was a box checker. Like I needed them to have this type of friendship, like this kind of crowd, like these kind of interests. Like if you didn't like ball games, you had to be an athlete. Like I needed an athlete in my life. So that was the first box of all things. That was my top priority. I need to be
Wow.
athletic and like, but just boxes that were unhealthy that just kind of checked on with
So,
everybody.
so were all of your boxes unhealthy, or you just had some unhealthy boxes mixed in with
Mixed
healthy
in. Yeah,
boxes?
it was a good
Okay.
blend.
Okay, so
Because there's something amazing that I could list of everybody I've ever dated, like amazing qualities, which is what drew me to them. I need you to like kids. I need you to work well with kids. I need you to be athletic. Like if you met those top three, we're good to go. Forget your red flags. We can work with this. Like we can manage.
so now that you're engaged, did you continue to have boxes even up until this point, or did you get rid of boxes altogether? Like how did that work out for you?
Oh my God, I was done. Like I didn't care if I ever dated anybody else again, even my kids, because my ex-husband got remarried, and then, my younger kids, like their dad got remarried. So it was always, Mom, like, when are you going to get married? It's like, no, dude, like, I'm not, like, I'm done. But it would hurt my kids. They're like, no, like, you can't be by yourself. And I'm like, y'all are my priority. Like, if I could spend time with you guys, like, it's fine. Like, I don't have to have anybody. And I've always had a really independent mindset anyway. And I'll just, Dwayne and I have talked about this on another podcast. Like, I was not the little girl who dreamed about their wedding or having kids. I never wanted to get married and I never wanted to have kids because I was always that independent thing. I'm going to do my own thing whenever I feel like it. So that whole submission thing that you just talked about, like that's a new thing for me that I actually want to do that now. When before it was like, you can't tell me what to do. Like I'm not asking permission. I don't want to talk about this. And now it's like, oh my goodness, like I'm willing to listen to what you have to say. And it's just, I don't know, it's been as cliche as it's like life changing, just learning how things can be and not necessarily how they've always been.
That's good. I'm sure everyone in this room is soaking that in. That's good right there. I like it. Real quick, will anyone else want to put an input on that?
It's funny. I was about to say I thought I had an answer, but then I'm wondering if it's even the answer to the question because I don't forget what the question was. But she said something that triggered something for me. And so I was like, is that the answer to that question or is it another question? I'm sorry. But I think something for me is I don't think I ever at a point required enough. And what I was going to say about that is like, I think it just depends on the person and what it is that what void it is you want to fill, so to speak. For me, it's always been companionship. So it's kind of like I was always wanting to meet someone that I can just be myself with. Mm-hmm. And then as long as you wasn't like a deadbeat, so to speak, or, or someone that just wasn't a good person and didn't have a good heart, it was kind of like I could work with the rest, but not really giving myself the opportunity to really have what I want. But part of that was because I don't even know if I really knew what I wanted because I was still kind of in search of myself. So to speak. So it's hard to kind of know what you want until you really know what you stand for. And that was something that I noticed in my past, which is very important now, which is why it's so important which is why I'm making sure I know exactly what I want and I'm able to stand on that without, and know that I can have it. So
it's good.
No, that is good. I heard you use a word, what you want. But when I think about relationships, specifically singleness, there's the category boxes of want, then there's a category of boxes of need. So I heard you mention the word want, but when you were saying want, were you thinking about what you need, or are you still referring to what you want? Because it's two different things.
And it's important.
Extremely.
I'm in this situation, I would say what I want, because I actually think that when it comes to the things that I need, I'm accepting of that. Like, in other words, if some things need to be corrected, I'm okay with hearing that from another person and then making the corrections that need to be made. So if it flows in line with what I'm wanting, then as long as if it's a need, then it's something that's required. So as long as that's being met, I don't think that would be a problem. I hope that answers the question in a roundabout way.
So let me say this, Miss V. When you said that was a time you had a checklist and you didn't never want to get married again, but then all of a sudden we hear that you are engaged. Sounds like to me there something took place from wants to needs to a compromise with wants
Right.
to what I need.
Yes. And as she was talking about, that's what I was thinking, because I feel like, I don't know, and I say this loosely, I guess. Like, I feel like women, especially, all people, but I know women from personal experience, like, we put aside a lot of our needs because it's like, well, I'm independent enough that I can make this happen. You know, like, this is what I need from you, but I'm good by myself, because especially if you're that strong, dominant personality anyway, I got me. Like, I would appreciate if you did these things because I need this, but I'm okay. Like, I can make whatever, kind of like you're talking about compromising, like I can make up for it in other areas. So I may not can depend on you for X, Y, Z, but as long as you're doing like this part over here, then maybe I can overlook you not doing what I need help with over here. And so a lot of our needs kind of get pushed under to the point we lose ourselves. We don't know who we are or what we even want anymore because those like critical needs haven't been met. So it's like, well, is that me as a person that's changing, or is it just my expectations on the people that I'm looking for? And that's what I was finding for myself, was just my expectations weren't there. And so you have people like, I can't believe you're dating them. Like, you deserve better, blah, blah, blah. But then for whatever reason, I feel guilty. And it's like, well, do I deserve better? Because if I did, they would be doing those things, right? So if I was good enough, they would already be doing these things. So what makes me above what I have or where I have myself? You know what I mean? So like, I was always bringing my expectations down. So if you can make me laugh. So then all my check boxes were like, if you can make me laugh, if we can hang out and have a good time, let's go catch a ball game or something. You're good to my kids. My kids can have a conversation with you. We're good. But you didn't check any of the need boxes. Like, I can't talk to you. I don't trust you. I can't have a heart-to-heart conversation with you. And those are the things that we need that we push away. We have our friends to talk to. Like, I can call her. We can talk. Like, I don't need my person. I had somebody today tell me that his best friend's not, or his wife is not his best friend. And it broke my heart because I'm thinking, oh man, like, your spouse should be one of your best friends, and so that hurt me for them, but then I realized how often we do that. Like, how many people can really say, my person is my best friend. Like, I trust them with every aspect of my life. Unfortunately, there's not that many, and it's a want and a need. Like, which one are we overcompensating for?
I heard some a few minutes ago. I can't even remember who said it. Is it okay for a man to be sensitive?
Yes. Not a crybaby, but you can be sensitive. Be emotionally available.
That was Chantrice that I believe used that word. Sensitive to me, but not sensitive. So Chantrice, can you please expound on that? Because you said sensitive to me, but not sensitive. I would like to understand that.
What I mean is like, because I'll say this, I'm slightly aggressive.
She said, I love it.
I kind of just say exactly what I'm thinking now don't get me wrong, I don't want to hurt people's feelings, but I think people take me wrong sometimes. So when I say don't be sensitive, I mean like don't cry about what I said. But then again, be sensitive enough to tell me if I offended you so that I can correct it. That's what I just mean, like, don't be afraid to tell me what's what, which I get part of that is me creating that environment. But I need you to be, because I'm very sensitive. Because I'm probably one of those I can ditch it but can't take it type deal. But I will in the moment I can't take it. But I can kind of step back and be like, okay, here's where I was wrong, so to speak, and then move forward. But I do need you to be like sensitive enough to actually care about what's going on with me. And just kind of meet me halfway.
I thank you for explaining. I think that's good, because I think if we was to ask everyone, especially the ladies, to answer that question, the answers would probably be a little bit different, because you actually started answering it and it sounded different than yours, Chantrice. Emma, did you want to jump in there and say anything? Just thought I'd ask. Emma, like, this is good,
Yeah,
but no, as far as the her statement was sensitive to me, but not, I don't want a man that is sensitive.
Well, I would say like sensitive but secure. Like, that's what I would say. Like, you can be sensitive, but you also need to be secure in yourself. Because if you're not, then it becomes less about sensitivity to the relationship and more just like a little bit more like selfishness, if that makes sense. Like, I'm sensitive, oh, it's all about me kind of thing. Like, in my mind, that's how I think about it. Whereas like sensitivity, out of security is like, okay, like let's fix this together. Like you've hurt my feelings. Like let's work through it. If that does that make sense? Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I would add to the conversation.
That's good. Was that clear?
That's good. Did you have something?
I feel like I'm sensitive as far as like my woman, I can tell something going on, and you can tell by the facial expression, body language. And then I'm trying to figure out, hey, what can I do?
Mm-hmm.
What can I do to try to make your day better? Is that buying flowers? And then people got to understand, like, shoot, just because you, like, I'll take down my woman hair. Like, if she just got a hair did or
That's
whatever,
good.
needs somebody to take it down, I'm taking it down. I'm taking the makeup,
That's good.
whatever I need to do to make
Yeah.
my best friend, my partner, whoever I'm with,
Yes.
happy.
Yes.
And I don't feel like, there's a lot of people, oh man, that's sensitive, man. You doing all this stuff. That's
Yeah.
my woman.
Yes.
So if that's my
Ain't
woman,
nothing wrong with that.
ain't nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes we use that almost like a defense mechanism too, because I know personally I've dated people who I knew were not emotionally available at all,
Mhm.
but that was easier on me because we didn't have to have any hard conversations. So we could just, kind of go out, have fun, go whatever. I didn't have to worry about a real serious conversation with you.
Yeah.
I knew that this was going to be my humor, or this was, whatever. And so the times where I did not want to be vulnerable, or the times that I did not want to even, I guess, deal with life,
Mhm.
that's when I would hang out with, my friends who were shut off, like who were tough all the time, because I knew it wouldn't come up. I knew I wouldn't have to talk about how bad my day was or whatever. So as a defense mechanism, I'd be like, oh, hey, you know what? Cool. Let's go.
Wow.
Let's go do this.
That's good.
Like,
Let's
you have
go.
people for different seasons, and those were my people during that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good stuff. Let's go to the next question. Next question is for Miss Chantrice. The question is, how do you think your past experiences have shaped your choices in relationships?
I don't trust easy. So based off my past experiences, but I say that to say, which means I move slower. I prefer to build a friendship first. I prefer to not force anything. I also prefer to make sure I really would like to connect on a deeper level first, just because I just know for a fact if it's surface, then it's just not gonna last. That's just the truth. I done been there and done that several times. But also, I have also learned to be less aggressive. I used to be more aggressive than I am now. I was going to say part of my aggressiveness is just because of the stuff that I have to do. Like, I'm always having to fuss at somebody in general. Like, like I'm a supervisor, I'm a director. Like, I'm always having to, like, to a degree, get on to people or be stern or take my feelings out of what's going on. So sometimes that rolls over into like the way you deal with people and you don't mean for it to. But I was just going to say, based off of the past relationships I've had, if I can step out of them long enough to say, well, what was my part in it? I would say that some of it is just not being willing to accept my own part, which is working on me. And I think if you're working on yourself, then you find less time to be, I guess, what's that word? Not ridicule. That you find less time to point out somebody else's flaws, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So I think based off past relationships, I've also learned to let people be who they are and learn who they are instead of trying to change and make them be what I want them to be. Accept them for who they are and be able to move forward if that's not something that I want.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and even in that, accepting who they are, but being clear to them what you desire. Because like they could still be set in their ways, but open to wiggling or changing to something new if we voice it. And if we communicate that, and it works vice versa. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, like we was talking about checklists here earlier. It's easy to put a checklist together, but what if we ask, can we give what we're asking off of that checklist? Point. And when we think about that, it's got to be a medium. Braden, you gonna have to help, and Corey, y'all got to help come
That's
through
what I
for
was
the
gonna
guy.
say. I was gonna say something. For me,
Say
you gotta heal before you start something new.
Say it one more time. I don't
You
think
gotta
I-
heal before you start something new. Because sometimes you can bring your past relationship into your future relationship, and it's already messed up.
Yeah,
Because you still dealing with stuff from the past.
that's good.
That person might not even hurt you, but you gonna hurt that person because you hurt.
Mm.
Hurt people hurt people.
there it is. That's true. Yeah, you're using that next relationship just to get over that last one, or you're trying to use a relationship to heal from another one, but that's not how it works. But I'd say a couple things if we're talking about the question,
Yes, sir.
how past experiences have kind of shaped my choices. There's a few things. I think my past experiences, I've jumped in really fast and really got into the conversation of like, what is this? I like you. Do you like me? Like, okay, let's define this, and man, I really like you. Like, let's just, be in a relationship now. And I spent a lot of time trying to get the person to like me rather than find out if I actually like that person. And so then months down the line, when the infatuation ends and the butterflies end, and like, then I'm like, oh, there's a lot of problems. We're arguing a lot. Do we even like each other? And I think if now moving forward, because of those experiences, I'm going to be a lot slower in the process of like defining something of like, man, let's just like hang out in groups. Let's be friends. Like, let's just be around each other. And I want to be conscious of like, actually, like, do I like this person? Do I like how they act and how they talk to people and what they do, instead of just like, do they like me? What can I do to make them like me? And so that's one thing that I've realized and what I've learned recently. And then another big thing is my parents. My parents have given me a great example of what a godly marriage should look like. And so I think my experience as a child growing up through elementary school, middle school, high school, and seeing my parents, now I have that example of like moving forward, I'm not going to just date anybody, and I'm not going to just like, there's a standard because of the experience of me seeing what my parents have done in a marriage.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
I like
good.
that.
I think, we live in a different world nowadays. So I will say that I think it's very important to protect your relationship, meaning it ain't necessarily everybody's business until you know what's what. However, I feel like some people really just like to leave everything's like almost like people want to live in a bubble, so to speak. But the world is not a bubble. It's like we can get hit with so many different things. And it's like if you stay in that bubble for that time frame and everything is great, the moment you step out, all of a sudden you don't know how to adapt. It's kind of like, if it's a nun living up in the mountains, they want to say she doing a good job not, being a virgin. But that's because she never sees any men. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, if you're never around friends to give feedback, if you never see how people act in a group setting, if you never see how they handle conflict with their family, if you never see how they, like I've even dealt with guys that say, well, I don't want you to see me get angry. But what you mean? I need to see you get angry, because I need to know if you're going to knock me upside my head or if you're going to be able to walk out the room and come back and breathe 1, 2, and then start over. I mean, I need to know what's what. Like, I really would like to go. I know we can't just make up experiences, but I need to go through different situations with you to see how you are so that I can actually get to know you. And then somebody can say, well, what would he do in this situation? Well, I could tell you, and I think sometimes people are ready to move forward before they even know that. And that's a problem. So that's just my take.
That's a good point. I think the way I would sum up what you're saying is just basically the person that you're interested in, seeing them operate in different environments.
Mm-hmm.
Like before I married my wife, I brought her into my world. She brought me into her world, whatever that was, around family, friends, and I did the same thing. And it gave me an opportunity to see how she was in her environment, but also to see how she was in my environment. And believe it or not, it was those things that sent off alarms in my mind. It was like, oh, I like that. I like the fact that the dishes are dirty and she have other siblings that could be cleaning them, but they're not. And she stepped in and did it. You know what I'm saying? And she didn't even realize it, but I'm sitting back watching like, oh, note taking. Oh, I like
Yes,
that.
sir.
You know what I'm saying? So the different environments can allow you to experience that and learn that about your potential partner. I like that.
That's good.
What do you feel has been the missing piece in your previous relationships?
I feel like a huge part of my past relationships were missing communication. And I'm not gonna lie, like part of that was my fault, because I'm a recovering people pleaser. Okay, it's something that like I will often put what I think and things that I need to the back burner in order to be liked, and so I would never communicate what I needed or what I even wanted because I was always wanting to please the other person, and so I feel like that's a huge part of like what was missing. And on the flip side, because of how I am and I'm learning, obviously, but I was attracted to those men because they were not fulfilling a need within me to they were fulfilling the need to be needed, I guess. And so like, okay, now I'm like, I know I'm pleasing you because you need me around, but then I can't let go of that. I need to be needed in order for my needs to be met, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. That's good. that is good. I see a lot of amens over here. Go ahead. Somebody jump in. Anybody?
Yeah, I think maturity and grace were missing on both sides. I fell short many times. I can be immature a lot, and I'm still learning how to communicate. I'm still learning like how to argue. I think I'm a pretty argumentative person, and so that doesn't come out well whenever there's a problem. And I don't know it until I'm in a relationship, because that's when things really start to come out. And then I'm like, oh, I can argue with my friends and it's one thing, but then when you argue with someone that like you're dating or you're in a relationship with, it's just different, and it's not one of my boys. I can't just like debate and argue for no reason. And so that immaturity in that communication aspect for me, and I think there's been a lot of times where there's not been grace given, because we're all going to mess up. We're all going to fall short. We're going to fail. And I think what I've learned from my married friends is like, dude, marriage is about grace. Like you have to give grace to each other. Each of you are going to hurt each other. Like it's never going to stop. Like you're always going to fall short. We're human. And so if you're not giving grace for each other, then it's just going to be like, there's going to be problems all the time. And so there's been a lack of grace, and that's what I'm looking for. Is I want somebody that's going to have grace for me because I'm going to have grace for you.
Solid. I like that perspective. All right, next person, jump on in. Jump on in.
On that and everything. Okay, so when he's talking about the grace, because this, I remember when I was younger and I was dating somebody, they could have told me that he went and whispered in somebody's ear, and I was ready to just like, we breaking up. We done. You know what I mean? I'm through with you. Like, I guess what I'm saying is like, that's just not realistic. Now, I'm not saying that you're supposed to allow anything. I'm also not saying that people get to keep just doing you any kind of way or repeating the same things. But one thing, and this is why I said I want a friendship, because you have to have enough grace for one another to pray for one another. Like, because we are literally all people who are trying to get through everyday life. And most of the time, literally probably all the time, the reason why we're doing anything that we're doing negative has nothing to do with the person that we're with. It has everything to do with what we're dealing with and how we choose to go about it or lack thereof. And because that's the situation, it's like, I want to be with someone who I can be honest enough with to tell this is an issue for me and I need your help when I am struggling with this, or this is an issue for me and this is how I'm being triggered. So I need you to hold me accountable so that it's not a thing for me, or so that I don't trip up, not for you to like get mad at me because I admitted to it in the first place. But also we have to be strong enough or prayed up enough to be able to handle that and not be insecure from it, because it's not our situation, it's theirs, but because you love them, you care enough, and you don't make it about you. And so relationships are they're deeper than what we
Facts.
want to say,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, I think no, honestly, I think what you guys are saying is really good. And you know, everybody, it's like it seems like everybody wants to be in a relationship, but when the rubber meets the road, they really aren't prepared to handle the things that comes with being in a relationship. So I totally agree with it, because even with the grace piece, if we was to go ask everybody across the room to say, you know, what is it that you don't have grace for, right? Everybody answer may be a little different, you know. So I think that's the other piece, because what happens when that person does something that in your mind you're like, I would not have grace for this, and now you have to make a decision: will you or will you not have grace for that particular thing? You know what I'm saying? And I think I'm married, but I think that's the piece that becomes really challenging. You know what I'm saying? So for a lot of people, it could just be, you know, adultery or just not being faithful or something like that. That's usually something that can cause relationships to go south. But in that moment, how do you know what I'm saying, really handle that? Because the truth of the matter is, it's going to be hurt behind that. Now you gotta deal with the hurt. Now you got to deal with the feelings and emotions that come along with the fact that the person you were trusting is now viewed as being untrustworthy. You know what I'm saying? So that grace piece is huge.
It's good. Most people, if you know, maybe parents, relatives, some older people that's been together for many years, been married, guaranteed there was some grace.
No doubt.
Guaranteed. And the reason why I say it's important, even when it comes to dating relationships, and it's important in marriage, because if you don't understand it now in dating, you're gonna have a hard time surviving marriage. And that's just being honest. Because imagine every time a problem erupts in a marriage, how many times, every time a problem erupts, you want to get a divorce or you get a divorce. Imagine how many times you would get married. Think about that. So in the dating process, that's where you're going to have to really figure out this grace thing, because you're going to need it to be equipped with it when it comes to marriage. Doesn't mean that you have to be abused or treat in a terrible way or whatever. It doesn't mean that. What I'm saying is that it's important. So if it's some areas that I need to be doing some personal development, building a relationship with God or whatever, now I need to be doing it to strengthen those areas so that I can see and recognize these moments. It's very important, because I'm telling you, when you get to that married life, and if you're trying to have a longevity marriage or a marriage like the older people, like 50 and 60 years and so on, I'm telling you that things are going to happen in marriage. Guaranteed. It's going to happen. So it's very important that we understand, that you understand, even now being single, that grace factor that he was talking about. Again, it doesn't mean that it gives anyone the green light to mistreat you and so on.
I don't know. It's like all of the things combined. So we talked like grace. We have to have grace for ourselves. And a lot of times we will not do that, because in order to do that, we have to do that self-evaluation that you talked about. In order to heal, you have to do that self-evaluation. Because if you've gone through, let's say, 6 relationships back to back to back to back, and everything, it's like, it's always the same thing. It's always the same
Always.
thing. Okay, well, let's check some stuff out. Like, let's figure out what in the world.
Yes.
Oh. He did. I'm proud of him.
Okay, shout out to the
He
fiance.
said it was 30 years in the making, because you know we dated in high school, so we
Okay.
had 30 years to prepare for it. But
Oh,
anyway,
wow. Oh, I just saw it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bling, bling.
Right.
Hey, let's go. Okay.
That's it.
Okay, bring
No,
it back.
forgot what. But we struggle with giving grace to ourselves, because we don't want to do that self-evaluation. We don't want to be like, you know what, I screwed up. Like sometimes I'd rather drink vinegar than say I'm sorry. I'll just say it. But it's like, man, like I know, like as I said earlier, I know I'm difficult sometimes. But it takes that grace. It takes that person to know your quirks, to know your triggers, to know whatever. But like, man, like I already know this happened at work today. She's gonna be mad when she gets home. Like they're prepared to deal with that already, because they want to make your life easier. They don't want to add to that. But it's hard to find that, because I'm an aggressive and defensive person. So I love that she said that. So when I'm angry at something else, I'm coming home usually still in a bad mood because it hasn't like left me yet. So then my kids say something crazy or somebody, and I'm just like, what? And it's like, man, like I'm not even mad at you. But it's like, I don't want to check myself and be like, Lena, like you messed up earlier today. Like you should have handled this differently. And you can't heal if you don't figure out what the heck is wrong with you, you know, and nobody wants to say, this is what's wrong with me. Like, this is where I've messed up, because then we feel weak. Then we feel even more vulnerable, or we get this twisted mindset to where everything is negative. Well, I'm always screwing this up. So I don't really deserve to have all the happiness or all the best relationships, because I know I'll speak personal on this. I don't think he'll mind, but like when my ex-husband and I split, we were not the best of friends, but now, like, you know, we are very close. We co-parent beautifully, but it took us a long time to get there, you know? And so every relationship after him, because I know that I was difficult, and I know that I was, like, you know, I was argumentative, like I had an opinion about everything. And when the other person's that way too, there's not a lot of leeway on communication or compromise. It's like, you're right, I'm wrong, and then you go your separate way. And so I wanted to like make sure that I didn't make those same mistakes in later relationships. It's like, I've already screwed up the first one, I don't want to screw up the next one. So you deal with a lot more, you put up with a lot more, you see those red flags, you see those issues that should be a problem, but I'm not going to say nothing, I'm not going to speak on it, because I don't want to cause a problem. Like, I don't want to say nothing, you know, like I don't want anything to happen. And so you don't want to repeat those same mistakes, so you accept more of getting mistreated, or, you know, situations that should never happen. You're like, well, you know what, it's okay, like I forgive you. You don't forget it though. And so when you hold on to that, you teach people how to treat you. So if I'm teaching you, it's okay to do whatever you want to do, and I'm not going anywhere, I'm still going to help cook and clean for you. And, you know, if you need me to babysit your kids, I got you, whatever, because you don't want to mess it up. You don't want to have that failed relationship tallied up again, you know? And so I know that I put up with a lot that I should never have.
Yeah, I think another thing missing for me were boundaries. And it's, it is kind of a buzzword, you know, especially now people love talking about boundaries and all these, and some people have extreme boundaries, some people have none. And I think there's a lot of personal conviction when it comes to boundaries. But for me, I had like sexual boundaries is a big thing for me. And that wasn't even a question, like that's there. But then like emotional boundaries, I didn't really have. And so I felt like I was almost within a few of my relationships, like I felt married to this person, but we weren't married, and like we weren't having sex. Like, so obviously none of that isn't, but like emotionally, like, man, I spend every day with this person, and we're doing everything together, and we're hanging out into the late hours of the night, you know, like there has to be, especially early on, like I am going to have boundaries in that way of like, we're just dating, like we're not married, you know, there's like, we can hang out until 10 o'clock and be okay. We don't need to hang out until 1 a.m., you know, and then we don't have to go as deep and personal right off the bat. You know, we can hang around and like just kind of, hey, you know, pretty basic things. I think I just got in a couple of relationships, I got really deep really quick, and then I formed like that attachment too soon, like kind of what I was talking about earlier of just like really, you know, trying to get the person to like me. But that's then good. That was also like, man, we're just sharing things that maybe didn't need to be shared yet. And then there was that bond formed. And so there's got to be boundaries in every way, you know, physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, all the things.
I'll sum it up like this: the boundaries create a protection around your heart. You know what I'm saying? Because oftentimes what happens, especially with females, so I love hearing this coming from a male,
Yes, sir.
but especially from females, that when they're in a relationship, them boundaries tend to go right out the window. You know what I'm saying? They're like, this is my boo thing, you know what I mean? We in this thing together, so whatever it take to make it work, that's what we gonna do. And what tends to happen is that they jump in head first into the relationship, and then eventually it just don't work out. And what happens is they end the relationship with a broken heart. Right? So now their heart is in broken pieces, and now they have to try to figure out how to put them pieces together, and who knows how long that process takes. But a lot of times that happens because they didn't establish sound boundaries before the relationship even started. And I think that happens when you say, I need to protect my heart. When you start looking at the relationships like that, then I think you sit down and you start self-assessing, you start analyzing, you say, you know what? I need to do this different. I need to do this different. I need to do this different. And you look up, it's a long list of things you need to do different, but you're willing to do it because you're trying to protect your heart. Not that you don't want to freely give your heart to someone, but you understand the value of your heart, and you just don't want to freely give your heart away to anyone. So I love that. Go ahead.
I said I wasn't gonna be personal, but this is slightly personal.
Go ahead, do you?
So I was in one relationship for a very long time,
Mhm.
to the point where, you like you said, you lose yourself. I was so busy, like I guess because I had never experienced the type of relationship it was. You know, it was kind of on a different level. I guess my first real adult relationship, so to speak. And it got to a point where I wanted to do everything in my power to make sure that I was good enough for them, you know? So it was like I was always falling short. So when I got out of it, it was almost like I had to relearn myself again because I'm like, so something is really wrong with me because I couldn't even keep a person that I was with that long. And it causes you to really be in a situation where it's like you don't want to compromise, so to speak. But like when I would meet a guy, let's say we talk on the phone, let's say we link up and we talking in person, we talk for 3 or 4 hours straight. I go home, I'm like, we getting married. Cause he understands me. He listens to me. I was myself, but it was like every time I connected with somebody like that, I just wanted to replay that over and over and over again. But that's not how it really goes. You don't get to just meet them every night and have a 3 to 4 hour conversation. And that's the gist of your relationship. They probably found out about all type of insecurities that I had in that night because I probably told my whole life story. You know what I mean? So, but my point is that it's like you have this appetite for something that you just can't get full off of. But so I guess that'll probably go back to the other question that y'all asked me earlier. So what was missing is just that. So, but that's not how you find yourself. You find yourself through the love of Christ and what he says we are. And if you're sure of that, then you don't look through other people to get it. With that in mind, though, the second part of what I was going to say, Dwayne mentioned, the old school dating, and it's messed up nowadays because it's like we can't even do that. Like, you should be able to go out I should be able to go out on a date with Jack tomorrow, and I should be able to go out on a date with John Thursday if I want to, and I keep the right boundaries. But it's like the moment you go out with Jack, like if I see you out with John, I don't even want to. You see what I'm saying? Wow. So it's like that's a thing now. Everybody want to own everybody, like they just automatically supposed to be yours now. And like you said, we're not married. We trying to, it's a dog world out here. That's all I'm trying to say. So until you get married, it's really a competition. Who made the best man, woman, whoever win. Is all I'm trying to say.
Wait a minute.
But,
You saying it. You doing good.
It should be. Anyway, why not? Now until we decide that it needs to be more serious. But if we're dating, how do you get to know people unless you get to know people? And it takes time.
So I will say this too to add to that. I understand where you're coming from with that, but I also believe too, if there's some chemistry when you and Jack meet the first time, y'all probably gonna set up a second date before you even get to John or Jim or whoever.
Maybe the why they just talk about. It's just a week. You see what I'm saying? It's been a week. A week ain't long enough.
Come on, what you got?
Well,
It's getting good.
no, I get it.
I get what she's saying, but you understand what I'm saying too, right?
Yes, but what are your motives? What are your intentions? Are you just going out to have fun? Or are you going out to be in a relationship? Are you learning or trying to find that person? Because if you're not, I love all of my guy friends. Like, let's go grab something to date. Let's go to the movies, whatever. But before, I was okay with that. But now it's like I don't even feel right doing that, Right. But beforehand, it was like, yes, like I have all of my closest friends are guys. Like I have 2 female friends that were super close, but the rest are guys. But it's because I'd rather watch a ball game than go shopping, you know, so I have that crowd. It's hard though, because when you have guy friends, it's like, well, y'all go date all the time. Are y'all messing around? Are y'all seeing each other? Like, what? My fear though is for our teenagers, because when we because we have 12, 13, 14-year-olds, you know, that I see every day upset because, you know, they're having relationship drama. Why are you having relationship drama at 12 and 13 years old? Like, what are you talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I love them. What? So it's like kids, even I'll say 17, 18-year-olds are clueless as to what love even is. And so I'll ask, what is love? Give me your definition of love. And it's like bogus outside. And I'm just like, what are we even doing? So it's like, who are they getting that from? Where are they seeing that? They're seeing that from a lot of, unfortunately, bitter parents because they've had failed relationships. So we're talking down on every guy we've ever met. We're talking down on every female we've ever met. And so now these kids are saying, oh, well, this is nothing. So nobody wants to get married anymore. Nobody wants to have those real boundaries and real relationships because what's the point? There's so much bad. They're just going to cheat on me anyway, or they're just going to do this. Like, you're no good. But we're teaching our young ones this. And so they have no concept whatsoever of what love is. So now they're suicidal. Now they're, you know, causing all these problems because so-and-so cheated on me. You're 13. What are you even talking about? Like, you have lunch together. Like, what are we doing? You know, so it's scary that, you know, we're talking about this and laughing as adults, but all of the kids that are struggling so bad because everybody's afraid to be by themselves.
Yeah.
Adults and kids.
Yeah.
So we're good.
C Bonds. Come through for the guys.
I was just
For
listening.
the single guys,
I was-
come through for the single guys.
I was just
So
listening.
would you let's see, set up that multiple dates like that
No.
when it comes to a male?
No, because I know me. Like I'm. If we have a good conversation, buddy, I want to see you Tuesday. We need to talk about this again. We need to have part 2.
You're basically saying, if we got the chemistry, I'm trying to build with it and to see where it go. Not necessarily putting like a title on or anything like that, but let's just see the direction in the head.
Yeah, just see what.
Rather than just try to. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, because like when you said, you know, Jack on money, John, like I be too invested, and then on top of that, like I'm trying to find conversation a lot, and then just the vibe you get from a person, and that's why I tell people up front, if we're on a date, hey, this is what I want, this is what I want from you, this what do you expect from me, because I want to know. And I don't want you to get in your feelings if you see me Tuesday with somebody else, or you be ready to put my tires on flat because you see me with Sally. Like I want you to know, like I want to get that out. I want to get that out on the first date because I'm paying for the first date, so I might as well. Yeah, I need my investment
For the first date.
No, that's real.
Yeah,
And also too, I think in this day and time, I think you almost got to define dating. You kind of feel what I'm saying? Because
That's what I'm saying.
if you ask me before I marry my wife, like if I somewhat begin to get invested in a young lady, like I don't want to see her dinner with some other dude or something like that. Like I want to know, like is more exclusive is me and her. You know what I'm saying? Personally, I would have a problem with that. But at this day and time, dating could have a complete different meaning because meanings change.
That's what I was talking about earlier.
and that's why I like well, not like it. It's hard for me to talk to a young lady and we be in a relationship and her have a guy friend. As soon as you say, "Oh, I'm sad," why you sad, baby?
What they
Tell me
say?
why
What
you
they
sad.
say?
Why you sad, baby? What he doing
Yeah,
that you need me to do?
I got you.
So
ahead.
I can
Go
see
ahead.
both sides. I can see both sides. Where you're coming from, I feel like it's almost like if you're dating multiple people and it's not serious, and then it does become exclusive, you know that you are their choice. You are their number one. You have more security in that. So I can see it also from that perspective. But then also, I'm like, if I saw him out with Sally Sue, I'd be pretty upset. So like, I can see both sides.
Exactly. Let's go,
Okay.
Emma.
So like, we're gonna go to the next one, but like for me, for example, my wife, I literally had to get to the point to where I went to her and I was like, would you be my girlfriend? You know what I'm saying? Like, would you be my girlfriend? And if the answer is yes, then it's me and you. You know what I'm saying? So, but probably before that we got to that point, I probably was. I don't really remember. It's been a long time ago, but I probably was checking out other people, getting to know other people. You know what I'm saying? Before I actually got to that point, potentially. So I definitely can see both sides of the story for sure.
How do you recognize red flags when dating? And do you address them? That is to the one and only
That's
Miss
my
V.
question.
Yeah, she already kicked that one off.
And she just
Man.
kicked it off, yes.
So, job has. Oh, what is that? I don't know if it's mine or yours. Okay. I've always been a people watcher, if that makes sense. So all my jobs were in the mall when I was at UNA because there's nothing like the mall crowd, that comes through. So you're sitting at the counter and you literally see all walks of life. So that kind of started my people watching stuff, not in a weird way, but just how people carry themselves, like the way they present themselves, the way they interact, whatever. And so being a therapist now, like that's how I do my job. I'm watching everything. And so in relationships, we're creatures of habit. We have certain behaviors we're going to do like clockwork all the time. Usually when we're guilty of something or we've done something we probably shouldn't have done, we're going to switch it up a little bit. We may not realize it, but we're going to, because I need to overcompensate for what I did wrong to where you can't tell something's wrong with me. But I'm going to notice how you walk different. I'm going to notice the expression on your face. I'm going to notice, did you change up anything in your routine?
FBI.
It is. It's scary. Like, okay, it's scary. But no, it's like, it's a gift and a curse. I will say it. But some of in the past, you best believe I was calling them out. Hey, like, I know, like, this, and this. And they're just like, what, like deer in a headlight. But you can't lie to me because I can tell you're lying to me, And so I hate the word gaslighting. Like, I've always hated that term. But there's many times people will gaslight the crap out of you to make you feel crazy when you know that you know what's happening. They're going to make you feel like this big, So several situations like that, personally. So, but in the past, I was very confrontational. So it's like, I'm going to ask you knowing what the answer is, and I wish you would lie to me. Like, please lie to me, because I'm here for it. Like, let's do it.
You want the smoke.
Right. But now it's like, why? Like, if you know that you know, and when you confront it and you still tell me whatever your reason is, I'm still going to know you're lying. But I'm not going to show out about it. I'm like, hey, you know what? It's time to go. Yeah. Like, when you're dealing with really crappy past relationships, you don't want to bring it into the new relationship. But it's human nature. Like, you're going to come in worried with your walls up, with whatever, to where, well, I'd rather not date at all. I'd rather just have, friendships or friends or whatever, and not let myself let those walls down again to trust somebody because of all these things that's happened in the past.
So to people that do that,
That do what?
what you just said, like they get to a point of saying, you know what, I'm just not going to date anybody else. How healthy is that?
For me, it was the best thing I could have done because I was able to do that self-evaluation. I was able to figure out, what the heck do I want now? Because there was so many things, even career-wise, that I wasn't doing because I was too worried about making sure this was done and this was done and I was here for these people or whatever, that I didn't even know what I wanted anymore. So my job was, I don't say suffering, but I wasn't doing all the things I wanted to do, like different certifications or different trainings and stuff that now I'm obsessed with, but I wouldn't even give myself time to do those. So it can go either way. It can be healthy or not healthy. Like, we can shut it off to the point of being unhealthy to where we never trust anybody again. Mm-hmm. So then we honestly die lonely and miserable, wondering the what ifs. But most of the time it's beating ourselves up. Why couldn't I have saved this relationship? Or why couldn't I have found the right person? But then, like I said, or the flip side, take that time for yourself. And I think so many people don't do that. So they go from relationship to relationship, not knowing who in the world they are. And they're like chameleons. They're just going to kind of fit in with whoever they're with.
How do you recognize red flags
How do you recognize them?
when dating?
I don't.
I don't.
You don't recognize them?
Yeah.
I'm kind of joking, but there's been a lot of times where I haven't.
Wait a minute.
I haven't recognized them. There's sometimes I have, and then I ignore them. I ignore them because I'm like, maybe it's maybe it was just one time. Maybe it's not that, and I've probably done this too. There's probably past relationships they're talking about me like this. I'll admit that, but because we mess up. But there's a lot of times where, man, I really like this person, and I want to be with them. We'd already been together for a little while. Like, maybe it's nothing. And then I just overlook it, and it's small, but then it ends up becoming big later. And I was like, man, I really wish I would have done something with that. A big thing to recognize red flags, what I've found, what I've learned is my friends, the people that are in my life. So at a certain point, not after 2 weeks, but after like, it's tough. There's a balance. I would want to bring them around as soon as possible and be like, this is my friend, and we're just hanging out. But then they're also, the relationship is going to develop over time and it's going to be different. And then, once you're released maybe that, or reach that place of like exclusiveness, then, you're bringing them around and they can tell you like how you're acting now around that person, or they can tell you from an outside perspective, like, did you notice this about them? Did you think about this? And so that was something I didn't do. I didn't listen to my friends past times, because I was like, what are you talking about? I ain't acting different. And they're like, bro, you're totally different. I'm like, what are you talking about? And so it's hard to recognize it in myself. And so the outside people in your life, they have to be involved at some point to help point out the red flags, the things that are going wrong.
I believe it's important too, like you said, the outside people in your life. If you got enough of them saying the same thing, that's something to consider.
For sure.
Okay. Well, but that goes with who's in your circle. So if you've got, like I said, bitter and miserable people in your circle who, they have failed after failed relationships,
that's true.
they're gonna see, because
True.
my little saying, what you focus on grows. So if all you see is this negative about people,
That's
like that's all you're gonna see in anybody. So even your friends will be like, you don't need to be with her because like you're much more fun when she's not around. But it really has nothing to do with her. It's just they want your time, or whatever. But we have a lot of miserable people, who are your friends, but they're lacking also. Like they have these deficits, and it's like, I want you to be miserable with me. Misery loves company. Like we see it all the time.
Yeah, and I'll say that is a thing. But from my experience, like
right.
there were two friends that are married, and they have a great marriage, and I'm learning from them. They're a couple years older than me. They're where I want to be, and they tried to say things, and then I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And then we'd just keep dating, and then there'd be problems and arguments, and I'd bring it to them. I'm like, what should I do? They're like, bro, like we already tried to tell you. And so there are the friends that are miserable and they're just trying to point out the wrong things. But then you got to know your circle, like I said. And so I'm talking about, you should listen to your friends that have your best interests at heart.
And I'll say this too, because I heard you say something about the red flags, and you kind of had noticed them early on, but you was like, it's important to address those red flags as soon as possible, as soon as you see them, because they may not be nothing. But the important thing is to address it in that moment, because we work with youth a lot, and a lot of times there's this thing called learned behavior. So if you allow things to prolong, that behavior is going to continue until it's addressed. I feel like it goes the same way when it comes to red flags in relationships. For as long as you sit there and don't say nothing or voice your opinion, then it's like subliminally endorsing whatever it is that red flag is. Do that make sense? You're teaching what is okay and you're accepting it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I call people out on their red flag. I want to know, why you like this? Why do you? And then that's when you start figuring out, okay, I got this trait from my mom. I got this trait from my dad. And so how we gonna work through this? Like, because what's a red flag to you? I'm trying to figure out, okay, what can we do to like make this a green flag?
Green light. Yeah. That's good.
I was going to piggyback a little bit off of what Brandon was talking about with his friends. In order for your friends to give you solid advice, you have to be honest with them. And one thing that I found with even just people in my circle, like if you start to lie about the person you're with or withhold information about characteristics that they have and things that they're doing, then that's a red flag in itself, and you need to take a big old step back and reevaluate. Because I've had friends who, after they've broken up with whoever it was that they were dating, would come and tell me things, and I was like, girl, if you had come and told me like months ago, I could have probably told you straight up, like, you didn't need to be with this person. So like, honesty is such a big thing, and like your friends will tell you like things that you don't necessarily see, but sometimes you see it and you don't want to admit it to yourself, so you're really not going to admit it to somebody else who's going to call you out on it and call it out in them, to where then you have to address it because sometimes you don't want to.
Wow. So real quick before we go to the next question, why is it that we don't want to say anything when we see it, or we, or like you just said?
So sometimes especially if you're, I'll say this. I guess if we're talking about a for real red flag, then no. But I'm saying sometimes it's sketchy because what if you're a certain way about certain things, but yet you don't really, you toggling the fence because you haven't figured out if it's okay or if it's something that you need to change. So, or the way you view it needs to be changed, or your past experiences has you thinking that way, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something. So my point is like, sometimes you don't say anything too, because even though you can have good friends, who's to say that what they like in their relationship that you're gonna like the exact same thing? Like, what goes for some people in their relationship might not necessarily go for yours, and when some things you're okay with, they may not be okay with. Like, I'm like, just for instance, I would be okay with my significant other telling me something that I can't do. Okay? Within, clearly in a respectful way, and they're going to have their reasoning behind it, but that's going to be from a situation of being protective or just seeing it from a different perspective and saying that's just not a good idea. But then there are some people who just automatically would be like, I'm not going to be with nobody that's going to tell me what to do, period. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, you would take on a whole nother opinion about that because you don't agree with it. But it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It just depends on in the context that it's done in. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
I hope it did.
Braden, this is a question for you, which I think is a great question. I think you have already touched on this throughout the episode. But the question is, what steps are you taking now to break the cycle of choosing the wrong partner?
A few things. Number one, I'm moving through the process slower, through the dating process, through the getting to the exclusive part, like all the defining the relationship, all of that is going to be much slower than what I've did in the past. I have a relationship with God. I believe the Holy Spirit's within me to help guide me and direct me. And so I'm going to pray for the Holy Spirit to open my eyes to the things I need to see. Because I want to look past it because of the infatuation. I want to look past it because she's beautiful. I want to look past it because we have a good time. And so I'm going to, I've already started to pray like, Holy Spirit, you're going to have to open my eyes to what I can't naturally see. I need the power of the Holy Spirit to see the things that you don't see on the surface kind of. And then also I'm praying to make me the person, that someone wants to be with. I want to be the one. I've heard that a lot. Like, everyone's trying to find the one, and you need to be the one. And so if I think if I am building myself and I'm allowing God to change me, then I'm going to be attracting somebody better. If I'm building myself up, kind of, then it's going to attract someone else. And then the last thing is I'm going to evaluate who they are sooner. So I know I said I'm going to move slower, but I'm going to actually look at who are they and how do they act, and not wait till later. Until then it just comes up in arguments and problems and all that. And I was like, well, I actually kind of noticed this, but then I didn't really think about it, and I need to think about it in the beginning. Sometimes I think I get caught up in like, ooh, this person likes me, I like this person, finally, and then I just let's go, and right. I'm like, oh, I didn't even check on the things I need to check about.
For sure. No, that's good. Anybody else?
You've got to think about how it's going to affect everybody eventually, And so, he has children, I have children, and luckily they're great together, but it's but we're not married yet. Right now it's just fun and games. How are things going to change then? So I do have to look at my parenting style. I have to look at how you pray for the individual period. And I was going to say, I found these books on next door, my office, and they bought that bookstore, opened up the bookstore. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic if you haven't been. But anyway, so in there was, I think it was 31 days of prayer for my future husband. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I was looking at it, and that's what it is. And it's not like you're fixing to be husband tomorrow, but down the road, and there's one her heart or his mind, his heart, his family. And so, but it's these page long prayers, and then you write your own, at the end of it. But it is amazing because it is bringing up things that we take for granted. We want that person to already be, I guess, as whole and complete as possible when we meet them, but also know there's like a growing journey, together. You go through things with each other, but you want them to have those basic fundamental like values. Like you want them to have a good headspace. Like you want them to, have good morals. You want them to love their family, because I've always heard people say, especially older people, watch how a man treats his mother. And then you've heard, okay, well, what kind of relationship does she have with her dad or her brothers, or whatever. But I've always paid attention to, how do you treat your mama? And it's like, oh, okay. Because then a lot of times there's a lot of single women or single mother households, so what type of values have we instilled, in these kids? And I look at my 13-year-old, like, he has his dad, but we're like 50-50 split. So I do worry, like, what am I showing them, to be okay? So I had to let go of all the past hurt, all the past relationships, all the past everything, to realize, he didn't do any of this. Like, and that was my biggest thing, because I carried one relationship like stepping stones, like one into the next. And I had to let all that go for my kid's sake, for his sake. I can't be mad at him for something somebody else did, but that's where my people watching and my red flag watching, I have to really be careful with, because like he'll say something, I'll just stop. It's like, Lena, stop. Like, it's okay. Like, and because I know immediately that's not how he meant it. And I'll just say this.
Grace.
Yes. But never have I been in a relationship ever, my whole life, other than my mother and my father, with a man who like prayed for you out loud. He's like, hey, let's pray before we go here. Let's do that. Like random things. He's like, hey, y'all come here. And he'll call the kids in the living room and just pray. And I'm like, what? Or I'll walk in the living room and like he's got, like his devotion stuff in the Bible out. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like this really exists. Yes. And I knew it existed because I watched my parents. Like I had a great example for parents.
Wow.
But I never let myself get to that level, because that's too vulnerable. Like if I start talking about my relationship with God with you, we're on a whole different level. Like I can say, yeah, I'm a Christian, a believer, whatever, but I'm not going to really go into the depth of the relationship that I have. And to have somebody who is that bold and that willing to, but, just openly pray for my kids. Hey, let's pray, for this weekend. Because, they come visit on the weekends because they don't live here. And so it's hard, having that separation, but just to know that he put God first before me, because I like to have attention, but knowing that I don't come first was the best thing, that I needed that and didn't realize it.
That's good.
Man, like, y'all, it's been, honest to goodness, life-changing. Now look back at those past relationships, and I'm not even angry or bitter about them. Like, it makes me mad to think about it. But it's like, no, like I needed all that to happen to know what was really there.
That's good.
So.
Ooh, that's good for somebody that's listening or somebody that's in the room.
Moving forward, like in singleness, like I hear this like all the time, like singleness is a gift, and like actually start treating it like that instead of treating it like a curse. And so like treating it as like, okay, this is the only time in my life that I will have so much time to put into my relationship with the Lord, to have that much time to be able to really figure out, what I want, what I need and what I want in a future spouse and things like that. And so moving forward, it's like treating it like a gift rather than like a curse is like a huge thing. And then also like, it kind of relates. And like one thing for me, and like it helps with setting boundaries emotionally too with people, is like I write to my husband. I don't know who he is. I don't anything like that. I'll pray for him and I'll write for him. I'll write about things that are going in my life right now that I will have forgotten maybe by the time that I meet him. But I'm involving him in the process of finding him without knowing him. And so like it helps me to like guard myself to a certain degree and like guard my heart. So
Can I jump in real quick? I want to jump in. I think for the most part, everyone on the set has expressed, some belief in Christ and God and things of that nature. And it reminds me of my singleness and how it is a gift, right? It's a gift, one, because you're single. And technically, when you're single and you're a believer, you're really supposed to be focusing your attention and your affection on your relationship with Christ, right? First and foremost. But what happens when you do that, then you start entering into a love and intimate relationship with him. And then you begin to start understanding what love really is. But as you begin to enter into an intimate relationship with him, what he does is he starts cleaning you up. right? He starts healing the brokenness. He starts shifting you and molding you and conforming you into the person that you're designed to be. So what happens is, as you're in that intimate relationship with him, now what he's looking for, or what he should have, is your heart. The very thing that you are willing to give to somebody else, who's more than likely is probably going to damage it at some point in time, right? But when you allow God to do that in your singleness, now he's building you up. And I'm crazy enough to believe that because you have committed yourself to him and he's shaping you and molding you and cleaning you up, that he's doing the same thing for your partner. So what you have to begin to learn to do in the moment is you have to begin to understand how God say you should date. Right? What type of boundaries God said you should establish in an attempt to have a successful relationship. Because that's the goal. Like, you don't want to have to go from one person to the next person to the next person. At least I did it, right? I want to try to do this thing as successfully as possible, as quick as possible. And I believe that the success lies in how you handle your singleness, especially in your relationship with God, and you allow him to do whatever it is he got to do to get you right. And believing that as he's getting you right, he's preparing your partner for you.
Yeah.
And I think when we begin to handle that right from the perspective and mindset of a believer, then, man, a lot of the things that we've been through or we've gone through, we can avoid because now we like, God, you're in control of this thing.
Yeah.
We giving it all to you. We trusting you. We believing in you. And whatever you got to get out of me, go ahead and do it. I know it's not going to be easy. I know it's going to be uncomfortable, but I'm here for it because I'm loving you right now.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? So I just want to throw that out there.
I believe when you do what you said right there, then you'll be able to authentically realize and see who is the person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. God gonna talk to you, the Holy Spirit, all that's going.
You'll be able to see.
It's gonna be clear.
He's the one.
It's gonna be clear.
He's the one.
All of these no's that you're getting, okay, well, that's fine because that means there's a bigger yes coming.
Facts.
You know?
That cleansing, like we were just kind of talking about, kind of getting yourself where it is. Like, I had to teach on this a couple of weeks ago, but like it'll wreck you. Like the day that you're like, you know what, like I'm done, like I'm given full control, like I just turned myself over. It's almost like a detox. I mean, it will wreck you. You know, it's because you're realizing, because that's, I'll admit, that's why for so long I'm not giving this up. Like I'm having fun, whatever. You know, and so it's like, wow.
But those things you're not giving up are actually hurting you.
Well, exactly. But you're comfortable in that.
Exactly.
So you're comfortable in the things that you're used to, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. That's your comfort. You can't grow when you're comfortable. Like we all know that. Like you have to get uncomfortable. You have to get in that awkward, vulnerable spot, you know, to make any kind of changes, to even see, well, is it my fault or is it theirs? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be something we're doing, you know, but not in a bad way, just that self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to learn that, yes, it's wrecking you for something so much better. Like
That's right.
when you think of anybody going through recovery, it will wreck them. Getting sober will wreck. I mean, it hurts. It's a physical pain. It's a mental, but like it's a lot. You're kind of doing the same thing when you're detoxing from toxic relationships because you're still feeding, you know, certain chemicals in certain parts, you know, like your brain craves or your body craves because that's what it knows.
Mhm.
I didn't like that uncomfortable. I didn't like the wreckage. I didn't like that hurt, you know, until I realized when you're hurting yourself. Like you're watching these people hurt you and you're saying it's okay. Come back for more. Like I'm not going anywhere. Keep coming.
Is it possible that sometimes that reoccurring process happens, or the constant dating and so on, because a person could be afraid of being alone
Absolutely.
All the time.
and just that vulnerable
Absolutely.
to, they say they're not willing to accept anything, but they compromise a lot
Yes.
to accept a lot of things
Yes.
that they really know they can't say out loud or even share to the closest.
Yes, absolutely.
That happens all the time.
Okay. Anybody else before we move? Okay.
Oh, well.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, you said how you gonna move forward. Like I'm saying, that was the question.
Mhm. Yes,
right?
ma'am.
I was just gonna say, I think I know all of us want to be accepted, but I've had a past history of looking for my validation through the individual that I wanted, you know, to be for me.
Mhm.
Even to the point where, you know, you're trying to make a square fit in a triangle, so to speak. Just because they check off a certain amount of boxes, it's like, well, it's got to be this one because I need it to be because I don't want to be alone. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, that's what I'm gonna do moving forward. I'm gonna quit trying to force things to work that are not for me
Mhm.
and accept the things that are not for me because there is someone else
Mhm.
and act accordingly.
Yeah.
So
That's good. Do you desire to be married in the future? If so, why? If not, why?
I'm gonna start it off. Yes, and because the people that I surround myself with now, because a lot of times with the people that I hung with before, they didn't care about marriage. They didn't value marriage, and now that I'm around more people, I can see a successful marriage. I can see people can work through things and it be okay, and like it can happen and be healthy. So yes, for me.
Okay. We already know your answer, but you can go ahead.
Until September, no. but no, I'm just kidding. But no, but even when we first started dating, I was like, I'm never. People would ask, "Do I get married?" No, I'm not getting married again. And it's like, wow, like, yeah, I think I do. You know, but yeah. But I tell him he's the calm to my storm because I'm a lot. I'm loud. I'm aggressive. I'm not like fighting aggressive, but like I'm just a loud, dominant person. I'm passionate, not aggressive. There we go. Very passionate about things. He's very calm and laid back. And so he can tell when I'm getting worked out, and he would literally just do this. And it's like, okay. Like, you just feel it. Like, you just, and I feel even crazy for saying that because never would I believe that that was a real thing. But, like, when somebody completes you, it's just like,
Yeah.
that's what this is supposed to feel like. Like, this is what this is.
You know, one thing I like about that too is because I remember you talking about in your other podcast, on the other podcast, how you've been intentionally strengthening your relationship with God. Now I can actually tell that I feel like that's probably what took place to make you so open to what you said you wouldn't do. Now you're so open to it just like that. You know, even to the point of you saying that he touched when it just calms you down, just like that.
It's an immediate.
But you took a moment to focus before he even found you, what it sounds like.
It just, I'm so glad we're able to talk about the whole God thing. Like, I'm really excited. But there's just a couple of God winks that went with it. Because like I said, you know, we dated in high school, a little bit in college. So for almost 30 years, like, we didn't have any communication at all. And then, like, months before we even started seeing each other again, my mother had started praying for him. I didn't know this. My brother had started praying for him.
Emma said,
Nobody talked about it. Nobody even said anything because we hadn't seen each other since high school. I graduated in 2000. You know, that's a long time ago. So we started dating like in 97, 98, I think. But anyway, so all these things were kind of happening, you know, and I'm done, like never again. I'm over this, whatever. So then when we started hanging out again, I told my mom, I was like, hey, do you remember so-and-so? She was like, yeah. And I was like, well, you know, we started seeing each other. She was like, are you serious? I'm like, she don't call me Valina. She calls me Bobo. She said, Valina. What?
Yeah.
She called me by my name.
Wow.
She was like, you're not going to believe this. You know, she was like, you know, I've been praying for you. And I didn't know why. Like, he just popped in my head and I just started praying. So she called my brother and he was like, Mom, like, you're not going to believe this. So then they both called me telling me that they both had been doing this.
Wow.
Nobody knew anything. So I was like, wow. Okay. So we laughed. Yeah, this was a little God wink. Like, he knew all along that we have to go through all this mess, you know, to kind of get her. So I think that too opened up kind of like that spiritual part of it because it's like, it's easy now, you know, for us to talk about that relationship with God and how we want to balance each other and what we want to do for our kids and stuff. And I did not ever think that was going to be for me, like, ever. And it's just, I don't know, almost like.
I appreciate you for sharing that because I feel like that's very encouraging to the audience, to the panel. And yeah, I believe that's very encouraging. Someone else, do you desire to be married? If so, you know.
I do desire to be married. So that I can have that person that compliments me and is an extension of my happiness. And that we can be there for one another. Like, I don't think we were intended to be alone. So I just want someone to, you know, share my life with and someone that's not going to leave under any circumstances. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, I do want to get married. I've always had the desire to want to be married. Like, I was like the little girl who like had all of the white dresses and would run around in the yard and get grass stains on my tights because I wanted to get married. Like, it's always been something that I've desired. But like, as I've gotten older, like, my reasons and my perceptions of marriage have changed because obviously, like, when you're a little girl, you're like, it's like, oh, I'm in love, like I'm gonna have like my fairy tale princess, like whatever. And as I've gotten older, I've realized like it's a large part of it too is like there's certain things that I'll never learn until I'm married, and some things that I'll never know even about myself until I'm married, and like that person draws it out of me. And I feel like that's a large part of it is like you complement each other, like you're building each other up to, in my belief, like to be who you were called to be. And so like it's seeing that in that person and calling it out in them so that you call them higher. And I think that that's a huge part of it too, and I want that. So
It's good.
Everybody
So you
go?
be-
Yeah, so I desire to be married one day, and I would say because I think it's going to help me in my walk with God, and I think it's going to help me in the ministry I lead. I believe that if I get married, it's going to push me and her closer to Jesus. That may not be the answer for everybody, but I believe for me it will. But yes, I desire it, but I don't think God, I could be wrong, but I don't think God promises a husband or a wife to every single person on earth. I think he did say it is not good for man to be alone. He gave Adam Eve. And I also think that speaks to just living in community as well. You don't need to, isolate yourself. But I think we've idolized marriage in a way, especially in America. And it's like, man, if you're not married, you're less than. And if you don't get married, like, what's wrong with you? And there could be something to that. But like, it's okay if you don't want to get married, and it's okay if you don't, and I'm okay if I don't. So yes, I desire marriage, but I'm secure in my relationship with Christ that if God does not provide me with a wife, I'm good with just Jesus.
Braden, my dog.
That's
Hey,
good.
boy, I'm glad you. Hey, that's my dog right there. Hey, I'm glad you said that because the one thing that I just wanted to say, someone who's been married for 16 years, is that to answer the question why, for me, it was ministry. Like that was my why, because excuse me, because you just got to think about it. Like if you are willing to separate yourself, excuse me, crazy. The enemy don't want me to get it out, but I'm gonna get it out.
You want some water?
If you are crazy enough, in a sense, to separate yourself and allow God to have his way in your life, just so that you could be who it is that he wants you to be, then you know that there's a purpose behind it when he introduces you to the person that's supposed to be for you. And that purpose is ministry. You know what I'm saying? And that's one thing I knew going into my marriage. And I've grown a whole lot. I've changed a whole lot because the things that I've experienced in my marriage, I couldn't have experienced it and learned it. I'm from my understanding no other way. So when I look at my relationship now, like everything that I'm becoming, everything that she's becoming, everything that we're doing is ministry focused, and we're constantly just trying to grow closer and closer to being and doing what God has called us to do. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to share that. So good job, bro.
That's good. Y'all, that is the episode. Any closing words before I end it up? Well, listen, we thank you all so much. Thanks again, AG, for coming in
Thanks
and
for having me.
helping with this broadcast. Thank you again for tuning into our episode. Thanks to our audience for being here. Elevated chat room, elevate your mind, elevate your life. This is the episode. Till next time, peace.